And hello everyone, my name is Tom Chianti. Welcome to At the Cube. Since we are at the Cube, that must mean this is unscripted audio. Now, what unscripted audio is a show, or a tutorial if you will. Well, hello everyone, and welcome to Unscripted Audio. My name is Tom Chianti, and we are at the Cube. The Cube being my recording studio. And of course, the recording studio at the Cube and Unscripted Audio are all brought to you by Alonatomic Productions. What to say next? Let's just jump right into it. And right now I have a song. And actually right now I am using Digital Performer. It is version 7.2. It is an amazing piece of software. I have been using it since Performer 2 or 3, back in the early 80s. And it is capable of handling anything you throw at it. You can even edit video and work in conjunction with Final Cut Pro. It'll work with any type of hardware. It's an amazing program. Right out of the box, you get over a dozen, almost 2 dozen plugins for which you can make records. Now, enough about them. One of these days I hope to have them as a backer. Yeah, in case you're wondering, was me taking a sip of the life force known as coffee. Now you'll see we have several windows. What I've just brought to the front is the arrangement window, or call it whatever type of window you want. You can make the bars smaller and shorter so that it goes, that's your whole song, by the way. Yeah. Or you can make them larger. And as you can see, you can also make the waveforms larger. All on the same window. So you can edit the waveforms, you can cut, copy, paste, do whatever your little heart desires. I like to keep it 1 bar equals 1 of them. Now this is your mix window, or your mixing desk. It can come in many configurations. Basically, as with all programs, you need to assign an input. And that is done. Let me zoom in a little bit. Up here. See, digital 1 and 2. That's your input. That's where you name your track, whatever it is. This is your output. See, ooh, output stream. Right now I'm using Soundflower. Soundflower is a free program. You can get it anywhere on the web. And basically what it does is it allows you to take the sound from one program and push it out through this, another completely different program, just as long as it has an input. It shares compatibility with hundreds and hundreds of programs. So what we're going to do now is, can you guess what this is? I figured you would. Now, I'm not afraid to go into the red. As you can see down here, we are going into the red. If you clear the ads from your screen, you will see that several are in the red. So we bring this down to -5. Because by the time I get done, we're going to be back up into the red. And we bring this down to -10. Okay. Now this is here, what you see here is the reverb return, which I am going to unassign right now. Alright. So here's your master return, and here is your mix input. And right now this is called studio drums. Things that have been already recorded onto generally don't have input. So we can go here and get rid of all the input. As long as there's a name. Or the easier way to do it, you can also do it up here. That plus that shows you what you selected. And there's a way to do this globally, but I'm not here to teach you how to use the program. I am here to show you my genosity. Every time you make a major change or something that is a minor change but changes and affects the program majorly, save, save, save. Always save. I don't care if you fart, you save. Because you never know when you're going to have a big crash. A crash, a bada boom. Okay. So over here, I can make them all disappear and just have the effects, the master fader, and the studio drums. Now, I like to keep things, this goes to people, organization. So all my global effects or anything that affects the program globally are important, so they go up top here. And of course, the most important thing is your master fader. And if you're one of those that likes, this here shows how much of the CPU is being used. This here shows my audio input into the microphone. So hopefully you're not too confused with it. All these programs, let's take a second here now. Not everybody is going to have the same program, because there are, face it, there's hundreds, if not thousands of sequencers. And what a sequencer is something that takes a bunch of events and puts them in a certain order. Alright, in this case it's taking MIDI, audio, and audio loops and putting them in the audio that you ascertain, desire, wish, hope, experiment with. People also call these DAWs, digital audio workstations, and they're not wrong. And because you're working with digital audio and it's a workstation. Now, the important thing to remember is not that, wow, this looks so cool, or it looks very involved, how am I ever going to learn this? They all share the same, they all share certain aspects, alright? In order to get sound into them, you need an input. Alright, that makes sense to you? In order to get sound out of them, they need an output. And a place for the sound to exist, it needs a track. It needs a place. So those are three things that every DAW must have. And granted, there's going to probably be one or two exceptions to the rules. But as you can see, I have arranged this where it is input, the name of the track, that's where it exists, and its output. Now, outputs can be only one. In this case, since I'm just recording and showing a tutorial, I want them all to come out the same output so that we have the same sounds coming out at the same time. So I've chosen Soundflower 2-track, tracks 1 and 2. Now just take a listen to that. Soundflower is the name of the audio program, the converter, the driver, the plumbing pipe, if you will, that takes the sound from Digital Performer, which gets its sound from its input, goes through the pipe, which is Digital Performer, out of the pipe, which is Soundflower. It's stereo 2-channel, and it's channels 1 and 2. That's a lot of information there that seems very, because once you understand that information, you can affect how it gets in, how it gets out, and what happens to it while it resides into the program. I have tons and tons of plugins, from very simple to very expensive. Do not let the complexity or ease of the programs get you flustered. Just like all DAWs have their function, All plugins have their functions. A compressor will compress. That means it needs an attack to tell it how fast you want it to attack, rather. It has a threshold, which is where the attack starts. Some of them even have a hold, how long it'll hold. Those that don't have a hold will have a release, how long it takes before the compressor stops compressing. And then it has an input, an output. Starting to sound a little familiar, right? And it also has the amount of compression called the compression ratio. Now, I don't care if the compressor looks like a zebra. It's got to have at least 3 of them. A ratio, an attack, and a release. EQs. Okay. Now, the EQ could look like an elephant, but it is going to have a way to input the signal, a way to affect the signal by how much or how little you increase the gain, the amplitude of a certain frequency, of a certain width. Now, compressors and I'm oversimplifying, but that's basically it on those two. They all have inputs and outputs. They all have a range of parameters that will affect in certain ways. All you have to do is compare how my ratio compares to your ratio dial. You know, you may have a ratio cube. I may have a lever. Your attack may be set in increments of 10 milliseconds, 20 milliseconds, or it may be a free-floating dial that allows you to get in between. You know, it's not exactly 100 milliseconds, it's 100.3 milliseconds, or it's 96.86 milliseconds. Depending upon how much or how little you spend upon these programs, these plugins, is how much or how little it'll allow you to affect the signal. But they all do the same thing. So please, when we get into this, do not get hung up that, well, my compressor doesn't have 15 dials. It's only got 4 arrows. You have to break it down to the simplest point. Those 4 arrows will raise or subtract your gain at a certain frequency with a certain width of the amount of frequencies that affect, which is called the Q. You could have an arrow that's at 10 hertz, but its range of influence is actually 5 hertz to 20 hertz. Now, there are EQs that will allow you to change that Q so that it goes from 0 hertz to 1600 hertz. And that's a special type. It's called like a shelving EQ. So, don't look at all the knobs and go, oh God, you know. They're there because they give you either a greater control or less control over the signal. And there is truth in the old adage, you get what you pay for. And every one of these programs are based on algorithms that emulate modern, vintage, or as yet ever to be built EQs. Compressors, same thing. Alright, there's a thing called a side compressor. These are things we will get into. But they basically do the same thing. Now, if I have a $500 EQ, you can bet your butt it's going to sound sweet. It's going to have a lot of buttons and knobs on it. But basically, a $50 EQ could still sound better. It's a matter of your taste, what you want to do with the sound, because everything you put your sound through changes it. Now, this is true in the analog world, and this is true in the digital world. One of the reasons I use the different types of software, hardware, is to change colors, to change thickness, to change depth. This EQ I like because it's got a heavy touch. This EQ I like because it's got a light touch. This EQ is a little on the muddy side, but it gives you a great bottom end. So you got to work a little harder. And this could be a $50 EQ to a $500 EQ. I mean, same thing with the compressors. And they all break down to just trying to make your job easier, giving you a choice, a variety of choices, so that you can put things spatially in different areas, north to south, east to west, deeper, further away, close up in your face. And that's it. So just remember, keep coming back to this first part, because it won't steer you wrong, and I'm not trying to fool you or trick you into buying something. I've got a $5,000 mixing console. I've got thousands of dollars outboard gear. I use it or not, depending upon what I'm looking for. So, again, it's a matter of choice. It's a matter of style, finesse. It's not the board. It's not the gear. It's the idiot tweaking the knobs. So we will come back for part 2 of this later on. And I want to thank you for bearing with me. My name is Tom Chianti. We are at the Cube, and this has been Unscripted Audio. Thank you. And remember, trust your ears over any type of dial, diode, because what you hear is what it is.